welcome to the Williamsville Public Library Museum. Today is Wednesday, August 30th, 2023, and we're here talking to sisters Lois Robison Thompson and Carol Robison Harris about local businesses and local history here in Williamsville. So I understand that your dad had a Shell station that we're going to talk about, and that you had a connection to a few other businesses in town. So if you don't mind, let's start with your dad's Shell station. Can you tell us a little bit about where it was and how it got started?
Well, he originally had started running the Marathon station, which was on Elm Street here, right after he got married. Well, I think he was before he got married, and then he continued with that, and then J.D. Bashir, owned a garage also on Old 66, and Dad started working for him, and eventually he bought the station from Mr. Bashir after he retired, and that's where he worked.
When you say garage, what kinds of things did they do there?
Well, they had gas, they sold gas. It was a full service. If you got 25 cents worth of gas, you also got your oil checked and your windshield, and you just stayed in the car while they did all that. And he had hired a man to help him with the mechanical work. He also was a mechanic, and he was a deaf-mute man who needed a job, so he hired him, and he worked for him almost most of the time. He was always
helping Dad out because Dad had a heart problem that he eventually had surgery for.
He had to go to Chicago for that because they didn't have Prairie Heart back in those days.
Right.
Your dad was a mechanic, and he also had another mechanic that worked for him, and they ran the gas station. About how long was that business operational? How long were they running?
The 40s to late 60s.
And what do you think made it special?
He would take on anything. That he was pretty good about fixing things, and if somebody else couldn't do it, Dad would give it a try. He was pretty dependable about figuring things out, and he usually got them going again.
He also would work on farm equipment.
Okay.
Yeah, there wasn't anything he'd turn down. It'd have to be really big before he would say no.
How do you think the way he ran his business is different than businesses today?
I really think he was the type of person who wanted to help those, whether they had money or not. Cars back in those days were easy to work on compared to what they are now. I think he carried a lot of bills for people because raising family, or they would pay him with half a beef. Or
barter system.
Yeah, right. I remember one time him bringing in 2 very big boxes of meat, and he says, "We're going to eat good today, Mom."
Right.
And so, that was something that they did back then.
Yeah.
Our mom worked as a bookkeeper.
For the business? Or
Yeah, for the
Yes.
business.
Was there any other family members that worked
Yeah,
for the
both
business?
our brothers.
Okay.
Our oldest brother was very mechanically inclined, and when he was in the Army, that's what he did, was work on the vehicles.
And helicopters.
Yeah, he was.
Okay.
He rode with
And he also
helicopters.
worked at Powell's, for Bud Powell, doing mechanical work.
Was that another garage here in Williamsville?
Fertilizer
Fertilizer
plant.
Did your brother go on to be a mechanic after the Army, or did he do something else?
He was a truck driver, but the mechanical thing always served him well. He even helped some race car drivers when he was living in Missouri. So he did it everywhere. I mean, he really liked working on things, so he got that from Dad.
And your other brother, did he enjoy the mechanics at all, or did he
He
go
was
in a different
going
direction?
to, yeah, he was going to be mechanically inclined, but I think he would have been more in the business world, because he would probably be the one that would meet him at the door and say, "What do you need done?"
Okay.
he would do that part.
For a short time, when he was in his teens, my dad bought the drugstore, and for a short time he ran it, and our youngest brother Tom would work up there waiting on people.
That's where we think he might have been
Right,
a
because
little tough on the business side.
because they had comic books. They sold comic books for one thing, and they had a soda bar, where you could order chocolate Cokes, cherry Cokes, or whatever. And the kids would come after school and get the comic books and sit down and not buy anything. So he would pick up the comic books and say, either buy something or the comic book, or
Right.
you're out of here. As much to say as you're out of here.
So what drugstore was that your dad bought?
It was from Logan's.
Yeah, Logan's drugstore, and Dad renamed it Robison Variety. Didn't last very long though. He was just trying to find something, since his health was not as good, that he wouldn't have to be so physical. He tried several things.
Yeah.
Was he still running the station at the same time, or was that?
No, I believe that was after he sold
Okay.
out.
That was the interim before they moved to Missouri.
Yeah.
Okay. Did he basically close down the garage for health reasons, or were there other reasons why he ended the gas station business?
I think that was kind of the era when people started going to Springfield, getting cars that he was not really trained with the emissions and all this kind of stuff. That was during the time when things like that were happening. I think his health had a part in it.
Now, you said when your parents went to Missouri, your mom went back to school and became a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
Did your dad retire at that point?
He worked for a short time at White's Automotive, but then I think that he realized then that he couldn't do physical work, so he continued to do farm work, on his own farm he had.
Did they live on a farm in Missouri then?
Yeah.
Okay. Was it crops or was it livestock?
He had livestock.
Your dad had the Shell station and for a short time the drugstore, and your mom was a bookkeeper for him, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
You both had a little bit of the business experience yourselves. I know that you both were in the daycare business,
Mm-hmm.
and Lois, you had a beauty shop in your home. Could you tell us a little bit about having the daycares, what that was like for you, and in terms of knowing the kids that grew up and some of them staying in Williamsville?
Well, I think I was more interested in what the kids did after they got out of school. I kind of kept up with most of them, and some of them are still in town. I had 2 boys one time that ran away from the daycare. Every day they ran away.
Oh.
And I have never found out where they ended up or anything,
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see the kids that you did have, what they went on to be,
Mhm.
what they're doing with their lives.
What about you, Lois? What did you think about the daycare time when you were running the daycare?
Well, it was kind of chaotic until I kind of found out how to be more structured with it and really treat it as a business, and that's when things started going better for me. I even signed up for the food program, and having those guidelines to go by made it so you made it more like a business rather than just saying I'm taking in kids.
Right.
It was
beyond babysitting.
Yeah, I became more serious about it, wanted to do the right thing for the children and their families.
And did you actually run a preschool through that as well then?
Yes, later when my son was born, I quit the daycare for a while and then went back. That's when I started the home preschool. And Margaret Stroish had told me that she did it and encouraged me to do it. And I thought I would never do something like that because I thought I had Margaret on a pedestal because I thought she was the ultimate and learned a lot from her. That was such a wonderful experience. I was so excited when the boxes had come for the next sessions, and you'd always get a new book. Some of the children have even told me that their love of reading was from my preschool. That was lots of fun.
So that's got to make you feel good.
Yeah, it really did.
Now, I know another business that you did was a hair business that you ran in the basement of your home. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, that was in the days of backcombing. The problem was that my schooling, when I went to school at Marguerite Scott's School of Beauty Culture, it's supposed to take 9 months, but I think it took me about 10 months to get through that. I loved going to school, got really good grades in that school, but it's like taking what you've learned and applying it. That the styles when I was going to school were the backcombed and the updos and the curls, and I was really good at that. But then seems like suddenly from the time I got my license, the styles changed to the shag and all that, and we didn't learn that stuff. So it's like I wasn't keeping up with the styles that people wanted. So that was difficult for me because I thought I would be the one that would keep up with stuff like that and go to the classes, but I did not. And having Martha with her seizure disorder, it just sort of fell through.
Sure, you can only do
for
so
me.
much.
Yeah, you can only do so much. But when I was a young person, I thought I was going to be the beautician to the stars. You know, you got those big ideas that you were
Sure.
just going to be the best in that. And there were some of my customers that loved coming to me because of my shampoos. I would really give a good shampoo. And one lady in particular came, she had migraine headache. So I think I had another job on the side that I didn't know
Right.
about.
Right, so massage therapist could have been part of your job there.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that,
But some people can be very,
yeah, that I'm a sensitive type person in that sometimes you ran across someone that wanted something that wasn't, you couldn't achieve
do
for
with their
them.
hair.
Yeah.
Right. So like what time frame are we talking about there? Like when you were talking about the styles changing so quickly around
Oh,
what
that
years?
was, see, I graduated in 67, went to school fall of 67. So it was the end of the 60s, the beginning of the 70s when that sort of switched around.
So a big difference between the late 60s and early 70s. in
Yeah,
terms
it
of
just changed.
hairstyle
Yeah.
and that wasn't the only things changing in the late 60s and early 70s. So that's understandable.
Yeah, it was it was just that time where
Right.
things.
In terms of your businesses and your dad's businesses, obviously things wrap up at some point and you retire. You've both retired by staying here in Williamsville. What do you find yourselves doing now that you don't have to have a steady job?
Things
You
that
do
we
with your
can
time.
mention on film.
Yes.
Well, we like to work. We both like to work in our yards, and
Yeah.
Okay.
recently I found out you could save seeds
Right.
from your some of your plants, and
Right.
it's amazing how you pass that on. And then this one lady from my church says, "Oh, now I don't have to have any seeds from you. I'll have my own seeds," and it just
Right.
was fun doing that.
So you're in 3 generations of seeds now, I think.
So yeah, that was fun to do that. We both were given permission by Mom to just use the Betty Crocker cookbook and go for it. So she did pies and I did cakes. So that made both of us have a love for baking. So the Betty Crocker cookbook, I still have it at home. That was our really good be given permission to just go for it. And I think I made every cake in the Betty Crocker cookbook.
So do you find yourselves baking a lot now?
I like to. That gives me comfort to do baking. Yeah.
When you don't have, like I don't have any specific talent, I just, I'll make a pie, someone will mention it.
Yeah, she's really good with pies.
So if someone requests one, then I do that. And people call for events at the village.
Here's some community events like
Yeah.
Autumn on the Boulevard.
Yeah,
outside,
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Do you have to bake sometimes like for church gatherings or
Yeah.
anything like that?
Mhm.
And do you get to see any grandkids?
Oh yeah, that's the wonderful part of
Our grandchildren are grown up, but we have great grandchildren now, so
Yeah.
Wow.
spend a lot of time with them.
Okay.
Well, I have step great grandkids, which we kind of dropped the step,
Okay.
So I have altogether, 8 with the new one coming any day now. Grandkids and great grandkids.
And what about you, Lois? Can you keep track of how many you have?
How many I have? Well, grandchildren, I have 2 grandchildren, a boy
Okay.
and a girl, and then same way with the great grandchildren, a girl and a boy. And my great grandson cries to come to my house, like
He never
Tammy
knows when
used
to go home.
So that's kind of a nice problem to
It
have.
might have something to do with the gummy bears.
That he's not supposed to have.
I didn't know if that might have something to do with your baking or some toys or
The
special
toys,
things they get to do
I
at
did
your
keep all the
house.
toys left over from the daycare, so he plays with all those.
So they're still getting put to good use then.
Yes, they are.
Well, again, ladies, thank you for taking your time to share your memories with us and the insights into some local businesses. We really appreciate your time. Thank you.